Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unraveling a massive, high-stakes scientific mystery that literally bridges the gap between human biology and the very fabric of the cosmos. It's a gripping story, and it involves cracked reality codes, a tragic 1979 plane crash, and classified intelligence files that were quietly buried for decades. We're going to look at the life, the theories, and the absolutely astonishing legacy of a man named Itzhak Bentov.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the implications of Bentov's lost work are absolutely profound. Just imagine discovering that the way you experience the physical world is really just a tiny, fragmented fraction of what's actually out there. Now imagine what happens when powerful intelligence agencies realize that too. Following Bentov's sudden death, elements of his groundbreaking research didn't just disappear. They were quietly folded into classified CIA projects. The stakes here? Well, they literally couldn't be higher.
Section 1. The Man Who Mapped Reality.
To really grasp why these intelligence agencies cared so deeply, we've got to understand the man himself. You see, Itzhak Bentov wasn't your traditional physicist chasing abstract equations in a classroom. He was an engineer, and he proposed that the cosmos is actually a giant interconnected hologram. Because he was an engineer, he believed that human beings only perceive a tiny sliver of its true scope. He used this brilliant analogy to explain our limits. He said that our human senses act kind of like a narrow slit or a radio dial. We don't see infrared light, right? And we don't hear frequencies above a certain pitch. Our nervous system is essentially tuning in to only one very specific, limited frequency of the total available reality. We walk around every day thinking this physical world is all there is, simply because our biological dial is stuck on this one channel.
Section 2. The Body as an Antenna. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it shows Bentov proving that we aren't permanently stuck on that single channel.
He meticulously mapped out how, through completely measurable mechanical processes involving specific vibrations within our own biology, the human body can actually expand this narrow dial. It's fascinating. When a person enters deep stillness or meditation, 5 distinct biological oscillators synchronize. It starts right in your chest, with the heart and aorta system pumping blood, which sends this rhythmic wave straight up the resilient column of your spine. That gently vibrates the skull and the brain, which sets up a standing wave in the fluid-filled brain ventricles, and that ultimately stimulates your sensory cortex. Through this incredibly precise mechanical sequence, the entire body synchronizes to a frequency of about 7 Hz, which, amazingly, happens to be the natural frequency of the Earth. You effectively turn your head into a highly sensitive receiving antenna.
Section 3. The Holographic Universe. So once the body becomes this finely tuned instrument, what exactly is it receiving? Well, Bentov theorized that the synchronized human body connects to a universal field that behaves exactly like a massive hologram. To kind of wrap your head around this, think of dropping 3 pebbles simultaneously into a pizza pan filled with water. The pebbles create these clashing ripples, what scientists call an interference pattern. If you were to instantly flash freeze that water, every single sliver of that ice would contain the mathematical data to reconstruct the image of all 3 pebbles. That's how a holographic universe works. Every fragment of reality contains the complete information of the whole, which means you, sitting there right now, carry the information of the entire cosmos within you.
I absolutely love this quirky quote from Bentov. He said, "We're just all raisins in the jello." It's funny, but it perfectly describes the scientific concept of entrainment. Think about it. If one raisin in the jello starts vibrating at a higher, stronger frequency, pretty soon all the surrounding raisins and the jello itself are going to begin to resonate with it. Your consciousness, vibrating at a specific frequency, literally shapes the energetic field around you. And this entire system of expanding energy actually takes a very specific, universal shape, the torus. Picture a continuous, smoke ring-like cycle where energy flows out, curves around, and then pulls right back into its center. Bentov believed this is exactly how the universe breathes and how human souls endlessly expand, contract, and evolve through cycles of life. Fascinatingly enough, modern physics and extensive studies of near-death experiences continuously echo these exact same models of recycling energy and consciousness.
Section 4. Weaponizing the Mind.
But right here is where we have to objectively pivot to a much darker reality. What happens when powerful intelligence agencies realize that human perception is an easily tunable mechanical system? The timeline tells a pretty intense story. In the 1970s, Bentov maps the mechanics of consciousness. In 1979, he tragically dies in a plane crash. But then, Fast forward to 2003, and a 29-page CIA analysis known as the Gateway Process is officially declassified. This document is packed with concepts that are almost identical to Bentov's work. It details the military's actual testing of altered states and remote viewing to gain a strategic advantage. It maps a direct line from spiritual theory right to tactical application, leading all the way up to the modern era of predictive digital influence.
So the crucial point is exactly how this knowledge was weaponized. Intelligence operatives heavily studied how to use confusion to completely bypass the brain's natural filters. By overloading a target's brain with contradictions, layering in hidden sensory cues, and using biological signal entrainment, they found they could fundamentally shift an individual's internal narrative. They weren't just trying to change opinions, they were literally rewriting an individual's reality without them ever realizing the swap had even happened.
Section 5. The Digital Reality Matrix. Because those Cold War intelligence tactics, they didn't just disappear when the Berlin Wall fell. They evolved. They actually became the foundational infrastructure of the digital platforms that billions of people use every single day. We're talking about a massive shift from physical operative influence to algorithmic influence. In the past, spies might pass coded microgestures in a crowded room to influence a target. Today, algorithms constantly map what researchers call our foraging behavior, our daily routines, the specific moments we pause, our scroll speeds. They use all of that to predict and suddenly steer our choices before we even realize we're making them.
The ultimate goal remains exactly the same today as it was back then, to fundamentally shape the lens through which reality is seen. We are objectively reporting what the source documents highlight here. Modern platforms, many of which were initially funded by defense and intelligence agencies, utilize extremely subtle environmental nudges. For example, prolonged exposure to specific artificial blue lights acts as a massive dopamine drain, shifting the human mind into a state of heightened receptivity. The environment is perfectly tuned to make our minds highly vulnerable to engineered narratives, regardless of where they come from.
Section 6. Reclaiming your frequency.
But let's bring this all back to you. Back to Bentov's core empowering message. Because if your nervous system is a tunable receiver, it means you are not just a passive target for algorithms. You actually have the ability to take control of your own internal dial. And this brilliantly illustrates why so many of us struggle to consciously change our lives. Look at this comparison. Conscious desires are really just words and wishes. That's the reality you hope for. But your subconscious frequency is driven by deep-seated beliefs, unresolved emotions, and your nervous system's actual physical state. That is the reality you are broadcasting. The universe, that massive holographic field we talked about earlier, it doesn't respond to the words you speak. It responds to the biological and emotional frequency you emit.
Because the body is constantly listening to the mind. Fear acts as a remarkably dense filter that physically restricts your perception and locks you into survival mode. But by deliberately and emotionally rehearsing possibility, peace, and confidence, your nervous system begins to adapt. You physically rewire your brain and body, shifting your energetic signal and literally changing the reality you attract and experience.
The real key to accessing this power, it's stillness. In our hyper-stimulated world, stillness is honestly the ultimate rebellion. By embracing deep silence, you finally turn down that constant mental static and algorithmic noise. In that quiet space, the hidden patterns of your own conditioning become visible, and you can finally perceive and connect with the broader intelligent field that Itzhak Bentov mapped out so many years ago.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound realization. Your perception is literally the most valuable real estate on Earth. If you aren't actively tuning your own dial, someone else is happily tuning it for you. So, as you step away from this explainer today, I really want you to ask yourself, who has already written your next move before you even knew there was a choice to make? Master your consciousness or let it be mastered. The power is completely in your hands.